were on the pillar of Klingons. Even the original Star Trek V's main villain was random Klingon captain who's bored. I don't remember his name. Don't ask me to look it up because I don't care. Go ahead. Anybody got it? What was his name?
I read a whole book series about him too. There's
Bring it. What's his name?
I just call him Doc Brown Klingon.
No, that's Krug. That's in 3.
Oh, sorry. Wait, which one? Which one are we talking about?
This is in 5. He is literally bored. He's got a bird.
God,
and he's blowing up space debris, and he's the central antagonist until they meet the One, which is the thing.
I forgot about him so hard. I thought you meant Krug.
No, it was we're live, by the way. Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
People who are watching this, but it was the guy who he attacked the satellite. That if you actually did the math on it, assuming that it stayed at sublight speeds, he was literally within a stone's throw of Earth, like just blowing stuff up. Because he blew up, what was it? It wasn't Voyager, was it?
No, it was, I forget. It was a specific probe. They actually show off that it is a specific Earth probe that he's blowing up. And that is inches from Earth.
Right, with warp drive is absolutely no problem to get to Earth. It was.
Yeah, it's so that movie is so many levels of nonsense. Was it Pioneer? It's the one with the plaque. I remember this. It's the one with the plaque of the people on it, and that's how you can identify which specific one it is.
Yeah, I think it was Pioneer. Was it with the plaque? I think it said it on it too, didn't it? Like as it passed, it said like.
I don't remember.
Pioneer.
I'll be honest. A Klaus, was that his name? Klaas, Klugarian?
Clegane?
That's his name. Clegane. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
It's just like, why do all Klingons have to have like in their name?
Well, you see, I don't know.
The
Vulcan thing too. We got the Vulcan naming.
S or T apostrophe.
Yep,
or the S. They have the S's too.
Oh yeah, they do like their S's way too much. Surak, Sarek, Savek, Savik, Spock.
Sabal.
Yeah, there's more. I'm just going off the top of my head at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this, which means I got to pull up my notes.
Real quick, before everyone, just to go literally, this is why I hate that it took me so long to go live with this. Just so you know, we're rewriting. We'll be doing a complete summation. You'll have a series, so if you don't want to watch these live streams or you can't watch all of it, you'll see it. And for this one specifically, there is so little that happens, and it's so stupid that we're just rewriting it wholesale. We won't be doing that on anything else. It's just this one is so ridiculous that for all intents and purposes it doesn't deserve to exist.
Yep. Even though it's not, though, as we said earlier, it's not the worst Star Trek movie, at least in my opinion.
I agree.
But it's the worst in terms of concept. I guess is probably the best way to put it.
No kidding. No, I already get those linear. Thank you. I don't want to deal with more of that.
The Daniel 1998, thanks for supporting the channel. It says we need to find a way to keep the term "Why does God need a starship?" I think he's talking about what does God need with a starship.
What does God need with a starship?
Question. Okay, so how we can keep that in? All right. So what's happening is at the scene where Kirk is at the campfire, which is Kirk's only scene in this entire movie. He's sitting there and he's talking with Spock, and at one point. The campfire scene opens because they need to have a segue into it because we're ejecting the mountain climbing scene. So it opens with them, and it does that in middle of conversation thing. And, and then I told her, I can't even believe that. And then they all laugh in response to the story, that type of thing. So what Kirk says is, and then I said, what does God even need with a starship? And then
they laugh. And
McCoy laughs and Spock just raises an eyebrow.
Yeah.
And
I actually like this opening shot that it's like the opening credits are like out in space. Like, you see the opening credits, everyone's name on a star field, and then it just tilts down and they're in the woods on Earth. I like that sort of that feel.
The other thing
how do I do that? Let me think about that.
We have to
it's like you tilt down and then it's just the stars.
I know, but the campfire scene is supposed to be the beginning of Act 3. That's why I'm.
Oh, it's Act 3. I'm sorry, I thought it was the Act beginning.
We could still do that with the Spock.
I thought you were starting at the beginning though.
Yeah, you could do that there.
Do it the Spock.
I forgot you started off with the Spock thing. That's right.
So let's start off with the Spock thing. So the way the movie is going to begin here. Actually, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to just give you some backstory because again, I want some help here. So. After the events of Star Trek IV, there are roughly three, there used to be three, Klingon factions remaining. These are in rough discussion, the Dagorites, the Gorkonites, and the Centrists. The Dagors are people who are self-interested. They are, call them the evil ones, but even that's not actually 100% true. It'd be more accurate to say that they are more what you would call traditional Klingons. They are interested in personal glory and wealth and power and glory and honor and great battle. Then there's the Gorkonites. They are what I like to call the has-brains. They are looking at a decaying and dying Klingon empire and saying, guys, we need to do something about this. And so they're just trying to fix it. The third faction is the Centrists. They are the group that is most invested in keeping the status quo as is, because they don't care about the empire or tomorrow. They care about the fact that they currently are in a fairly large amount of power and prestige, and they want to keep that position. So they want to maintain the status quo. That's the three rough factions. Now, as a direct consequence of both Star Trek 2, 3, and 4, all of which, if you guys were paying attention, there was background elements of the Klingons and the Gorkonites and the Dagorites specifically. The Dagorites have kind of split up. They don't really exist as a faction anymore. Instead, what has happened is they have roughly divided onto philosophical lines rather than political lines. There are some Dagorites who think, you know what, we're going out, right? Let's just go out with a bang. And let's just make one big last glorious conquest and let's die fighting. That's what they want to do. They have effectively become raiders from Fallout, or marauders, or whatever you want to call it. You get the general concept. They're just roaming around causing issues. If you remember, that was something that was hinted at in Star Trek 4 that was interrupted by the Voth probe. This then leads us to the other side of the faction, which is the groups who have effectively decided to just go ahead and join the Gorkonites. We're going to make specific reference to House Chang, which has joined the Gorkonites in terms of adding the military might to them. Now, the Gorkonites, they want to deal with this situation because they are trying to accomplish three things all at the same time. First, they want to improve their relations with the Federation because they believe the Federation will be able to serve as a resource and service pipeline in order to help give the Empire the shot in the arm it needs to keep living. The second thing they want to do is they want to distance some of their conquered territories from themselves, literally actually pushing them out of the Empire, which means the cost in terms of material, time, money, power, etc., of maintaining them has been reduced. In other words, they're trying to bring the budget down because they're not getting enough out of it at this point. They have the Roman problem, as I like to call it. The third thing they want to do, I should mention that in the process of that, they want these people to leave under good conditions so they can have trade agreements with their former powers and thus actually have some kind of a leg up in going forward. The third thing they're trying to do is they're trying to reduce their military in a very Klingon fashion. They want to kill off as much of their military as they can, not only because that will reduce the amount of expenditure that they're pushing into the military, which is huge, and again, is causing some of the aforementioned problems with the Empire, but they are very afraid, and rightfully so, of an actual military coup. So reducing the amount of power any military faction can have and ensuring that the military does not factionalize around a single group gives them the possibility of dealing with it. So that's the three general goals of the Gorkonites.
Okay.
Now, having said all that, this is going to be a Sulu-centric movie. In fact, Sulu is going to be pretty much the main character of this, and it's going to be following the Excelsior. Before we go any further, Lore Reloaded thinks that wouldn't work. And I disagree, obviously, but I would like to know if anybody else agrees with that statement.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. What did I not disagree? Having Sulu as the main person?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
You flat out asked me. I mean, do you think Sulu could actually, do you think the audience of the time could accept Sulu? Do you think that people would be willing to watch a movie with Sulu, in charge?
Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jesse. The only thing I was going to say to clarify my position. First off, thank you, Yosef and Alex, for supporting the channel. And then let's have the Quark thing. Don't walk to Lore's run. So to clarify my position, is a part of this is rewriting the story, but also doing it from a standpoint of the writer, and who has to deal with executives and everything like that, right? So my question is Sulu is a loved character and everything, but does he have the star power, the staying power to have his own movie? It would be like, I use Barkley. I don't think that's fair. I'm trying to think of a character, maybe like Geordie LaForge being a captain and having a TNG.
Sounds like an awesome idea.
Or
I feel like Riker, or not Riker, Data might, like a Data movie might be a good metaphor to it. Though Data probably has more than Sulu.
As I say,
yeah, that's what
Data
I'm saying.
is
Data
pretty
was more,
popular.
Data was more like, so we're looking at a like with like. So at this point, Sulu was liked. The people wanted to see Sulu. He definitely needed to be there. He needed to have a presence. But did he have enough to be the main character? Did he have enough where people would come and want to pay money to see it? Again, it would be like trying to have, I'm trying to think, maybe a Chief Miles O'Brien. Well, no, that has to happen. But no, like a Chief Miles O'Brien story. I think that's apt. You know, Chief Miles O'Brien becomes a captain.
I think, well, I mean, there's two things, and I just want to double check because it depends on what the impetus of our whole conceit of doing this is like, are we basically trying to rewrite Star Trek as if we were writers of the day doing it? Or are we doing it as if like we're today now? Because if we're trying to approach it as if we were writers of the day, we can make that argument. But I think if we're talking about us being writers today, looking at rewriting this thing, if that's the actual project, then I say yes. I think Sulu 100% carries it.
What's funny is George Takei nowadays 100%. He has a very strong following and a decent star power. He's even got Geek Circled it now. So,
right,
but yeah, back in '86, whatever this was.
That's what I'm talking about, because I'm assuming the way I always looked at it, and maybe we need to set base here, but the way I always looked at it is we're writing it as if it was happening during those periods. We just have it planned out, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, do you disagree? Did you think, are we rewriting it from today's date?
No, I agree with you. I think that's what we were doing. I just wanted to double check on that. Well, but if that's the case, I could even still see an argument being like, it would be difficult to like, you know, if I was sitting here as an executive and being like, okay, we want to do this Sulu movie, we'd have to market it probably as like not a Star Trek 5, but as a Star Trek kind of spin-off thing that would lead into what would be Star Trek 5, essentially Star Trek 6.
Star Trek, a Sulu story.
Yeah, Star Trek Excelsior would be what it would be, and it'd be kind of like actually, a side. Yeah. You'd have to write it as a side story that builds to maybe like Star Trek 6, but is its own separate thing. And that's how you would sell. It's like, hey, Star Trek's so popular right now. We've aced these past 4 movies because we've written them so well. Now let's do a spin-off series at this point, a spin-off movie series that focuses on Sulu, a character we've made captain. You know, we think he probably deserves it at this point. And then we can use that as like a nice little spin-off, but to sell it to the fans, we'll have like little sprinklings of it's going to lead into Star Trek 6. You don't need it, but it's going to lead into Star Trek 6. The only problem then is it might ruin some of what your idea is, Lore, because then it would have to be a little bit more self-contained if we sell it that way.
No, I get you. For the record, just to set this clear, I have never been considering real-life considerations when it comes to the rewrite. Not at all.
I mean, that's it depends.
Not then and not now.
I mean, no, that's 100%. It just depends on like what the goal of the project is. If the goal of the project is to think as like producers or just is a purely writing exercise. And so
I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm against your idea, by the way, other Laura. It's just I wanted to be very clear about what my mentality has always been ever since I started the Voyager stuff.
Sure, I just want to sell it. I think it's interesting if we could do it, and we can do it with those considerations in mind, because I think we're brilliant enough to do it. Is all I'm saying.
I agree, and admittedly, I think that's a different, basically a different challenge, different level, if you want to call it that.
I don't think so. We've been doing it up to now. Honestly, I have been. That has been the consideration. I've even bring it up. It might not have clicked until now, but I can show you live streams where I've discussed that, where I brought up, you know, how would an exec have taken this? How do we do it with an executive? So I don't think it changes anything. I think it just continues, because in theory you could still do it and say, even if, because I mean, people have done things that no one thought was going to be popular and it was. So even if it's a side character and we say we're just going to do it, it is possible that it still would have gone well, right? Because again, he has the ability to act, so he could carry the film. He was held back by one William Shatner quite a few times. So it's not to say that he couldn't do it. It's just to say it's a consideration to take into. But again, they didn't do anything with it. So if we want to keep him, we can. It's just at the period, I don't know that. I like it's a side story. I still think we could go with what you're doing, but it would just be positioned. It would be Marvel before Marvel came out. Because that's what Marvel did. They had their own individual storylines, right? And then they brought them all together. So, or it's Disney. That's what Disney did too with the Rogue Rogue One, right? It'd be the Rogue One of its time. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm not against it. I was just putting that out there.
Well,
I mean, again, I think it's an interesting, because I wouldn't be against doing a sequel, like a spin-off story, like as a fun spin-off thing. But I also think Lore's, based on the outline that Lore has postulated, I feel like that story is best not told as a spin-off thing.
What I've postulated is Star Trek 6.1, basically.
Yeah.
We could call it. It's not like this hasn't happened before. We'll call it a spin-off, but that's not actually what we're doing, because that hasn't happened before. And no matter what we make, it's going to be better than the original, so we're still going to make more money regardless.
That's true.
We could put a ham sandwich in front of the thing and then just show 3 sides of that, and we'd be fine. We'd make.
Check it out, guys. There's a ham sandwich. Again, still not the worst Star Trek movie, by the way. I just want to be very clear about that.
I mean, I don't hate it. If we want to have Sulu, let's have Sulu. Let's do it. And you know what? Let's make him openly
Okay.
Asian.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought that was so obvious.
I forgot what it is.
That timing was perfect. I'm sorry. That was wonderful.
My pause there was because I was thinking, it's like, wait a second, is he Asian or where does he come from?
Let's make him openly, and I say gay, and then you're like Asian.
Openly Asian. I don't know, guys. I think that's too much.
Is that even his ethnicity though? I'm worried that I got that wrong.
He is Japanese.
He is
That's
actually
why he was put in. That's why he was put in. His family was put in a Japanese internment camp during World War II.
It did work out because I paused because I didn't want to get the wrong ethnicity.
He is American. He was born in America, but his parents were Japanese,
Gotcha.
and so he's Japanese American. So, if I believe he was born in America. I know he would spend his childhood in America, but I don't know if I don't know if he was actually born in America, but I believe he was. His parents were definitely Japanese, though.
I thought you meant he was going to be openly gay because, of course, he is.
Of course,
I honestly thought that was just going to be a thing in TOS.
That's the joke. He actually, no, he's not getting in TOS, is he? That was one of his things.
In our TOS.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, in other words, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be Dumbledoring it when it comes to Star Trek 5.
And also in the Kelvin timeline, because Nero apparently makes people gay. So.
It's just look. What's his name? Shoot, what's the actor played Nero?
It's like looking at Runner in the mirror.
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. It's just you look at Eric Bana and it's just.
I get it.
It just happens, you know.
You can destroy my Vulcan anytime if you know what.
Exactly. With a giant pulsing drilled laser. Anyways, if we want to, okay. I'm not going to say no to you. Although at that point, I will probably start doing my own Star Trek rewrite separate of that, which is fine. I can do that because I already kind of been doing that on my Mondays. So, but if we're going to do that right here, if we're going to rip off the Band-Aid right now and say that we're doing this within the mentality of having to sell it at the time, I have no idea what to do for this movie.
No, I think it still works. I disagree. I think it still works. I think we can still go with it. It was just a consideration to go with.
Well, I'm just trying to think if there's like any precedent. We should get to the extra story at some point, but I'm trying to think if there's actually a precedent where like a spin-off movie is like extremely important to the next movie. I mean, it would be basically a Marvel type thing, to be honest. That like 6 is our Infinity War, and this is like our Thor Ragnarok.
No, I don't think it's bad, and there's no need to start your own different thing because again, you're discussing it there, and it's a good way to get it out. It's just, and again, it kind of making a mountain out of a molehill. It was just a consideration to think about, a discussion to have. He can hold his own, so if we want to go with that, and but the question becomes, do we want to, when it comes to the LGBT pieces of it, are we going to work that into it is it going to be a normalized thing? Is it going to be a major part of it? How are we bringing that in?
So I am not gay. I know, shocking. But I bring that up because I always feel the need to preface that. Until I saw Eric Bana. Sorry. Until I saw Eric Bana. But prior to that, I always approach it with the mentality of it's normal.
Right.
That's how it's been my whole life. So the idea of just it shouldn't be focused on is essentially my point. We shouldn't have a giant, massive exclamation mark over it. It should just be he's there. The end. Right?
Generally, I agree, but here's the advantage, I think, to what we were talking about beforehand.
Okay.
If we're
Lost my chat. There it
going
is.
and discussing it kind of like what was happening in at the time,
Mhm.
this would be a good time to. You can keep it normalized, but have it as a plot point or an arc to it, like you usually have with Star Trek. Just make it another a romance piece to the movie, like they already do with every one that ever occurs. You know.
Okay,
Have
so
his
thought.
family.
Hang
Have
on.
his.
I need to
could-
chop you off because I don't want to get this out before I forget it. I'm sorry. I want to get this idea out. One of the big scenes I wanted is in the middle of Act 2, which is the very character-centric part of the piece. I wanted to be a bit between Rand and Sulu. Not romantic, just two old comrades who were discussing things, right? And the big thrust I wanted to have about that conversation was that he was focusing on how weird it is that he doesn't feel out of place as captain, that he just so naturally fits into there. Now, what would beautifully fit into that, I think, as they're discussing that, and as Sulu mentions how he just, he is so comfortable with command and he has no issues with it, maybe Rand brings up, well, what about your family? And this leads into the idea that he has, because we actually see his daughter, if you remember, in Generations, that he is adopted, and just kind of, and basically make it part of that scene. If you understand where I'm going with this, that he is concerned because his husband is kind of okay with him being a captain, but there's still some tension there. And we don't need to go full tilt into it if we don't want to, but we could imply that he is not having the greatest home life, specifically because of the fact that he effectively torpedoed his way up to the captain's chair, and he wasn't ready for it. The other he wasn't ready for that, right? Thoughts? Is that terrible? I don't know.
Jesse?
I like it.
I mean, be honest with me. It's the only way I can learn.
I like it. I think it's fine. I think it's good.
Because
Sorry, I got distracted
honestly,
through part.
let
To
me-
be honest, I got distracted through part of it. To be fair.
I mean, so I'm going to be honest. I never really believed in God or had a higher power, and then I listened to what you just said, and it was like God looked at me and He told me I was His greatest. It's good, Runner. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just, there was this total silence, and
can we
there's
say
this
it's
horrible
okay?
awkwardness. As I'm just
I
like,
mean, it's
oh
just-
God, did I
I-
shove my foot into it again? Because I am
No,
playing
no,
the game
no.
at the same time,
No,
so my
you
words get
shoved-
No,
jumbled
can you
every now and then.
can you say it one more time for me?
You
Because
shoved-
I actually got distracted because I'm having a argument about Call of Duty politics.
You shoved
on the side, too.
your foot. So you're saying you're not focused on this?
I know I need to be.
We're gonna
Sorry.
talk about- we're gonna talk-
as Twitter is
You know,
just a terrible
we'll do
place,
it-
and I
we'll do
get
it
dragged
offline.
into arguments.
We were
We'll do
talking
it
about
offline.
Twitter earlier.
We'll do it. You know what, Jesse? We'll do it offline, okay? I don't want to
That's
fight in
hysterical.
front of our friends. Is all I'm saying.
You know what?
You know what? Okay.
College, you can go to hell. God damn, Call
I
of
kinda
Duty is.
stepped
Anyway.
into it.
Anyways,
I'll
sorry.
tell you-
Can you say it one more time? My apologies. My focus is completely here.
Sure, give me just a sec to not get hit by
Runner-
lasers. Nope,
Runner
I got hit by
stepped
lasers.
into it when he
I'm
said
good.
he's going to
I'm
do a
good.
separate thing from this. That's when he stepped.
That's
into
true. That's true.
I'm gonna be-
I hate all y'all and screw it all. No, okay. There's going to be a big character-centric scene between the two old vets of Rand and Sulu. The main thrust of that was supposed to be about how comfortable Sulu feels going to captaincy, and that bothers him, right? The fact that he's not bothered by it bothers him, if you understand the thrust of that.
Yeah.
And during that scene, I was going to have Rand say, well, what about your family? What about your husband? And that would cause Sulu to pause a moment. And because Sulu, if you've been paying attention, Sulu kind of catapulted up to captaincy for the Excelsior over the last few movies. Now, that's on purpose. It's very much by design. But this could have been causing stress back at home. His husband, who I don't know the guy's name, so I'm just keep calling
I don't
him
even
husband
think they
here.
say it in Beyond.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever say it. So whatever, husband dude. He's obviously stressed by this and worried, and he's losing out time. And of course, Sulu's daughter, their adopted daughter, is not exactly happy about the fact that her dad is, or one of her dads is away while the other one dad is here, and there's just so much little time. And basically getting across the stress of that whole scene. And in so doing, try to humanize Sulu and add more character elements to the whole scene. That was the whole thrust of the idea.
I think that's brilliant. That's really great because you never really see. I'm trying to think of any examples of this. You never really see characters grapple with having a home and having a home life and a Starfleet life that is separate from them being on the ship. It's either the person's on the ship with him that they care about, like you have with Keiko, and O'Brien kind of has some of that struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's still at least there with her through a lot of it, and so it'd be nice to see like he's dealing with it being separated from them and having to go on long tours of duty, which is like an actual today military thing that many people have to deal with, which would be good to talk about. So, and then adding a gay context on top of that would be wonderful. Also, I looked it up. His husband's name in Star Trek Beyond is Ben.
Ben. Okay.
To address it too, because it's coming up a little bit in my chat. So there's two things to it. So first off, some people are saying they don't know that George Takei would like it. I have two pieces to that. So the first piece is that Shatner wouldn't like the fact that the movie isn't dedicated to him. This is horrible to say for someone who's an up and coming filmmaker. I don't need my actors to like what they're doing. I need them to act it well. But beyond that, I think George Takei actually wouldn't have a huge issue with it because he didn't like the retcon. If they were going to do it, kind of like, and that's the stance I take. I don't retcon. Just do it. Just have.
No,
it out,
that's
have
exactly
it,
my
have it
point
gone.
as well.
And
because the idea is for him to have always been openly homosexual ever since TOS. Therefore, there's no retcon. There's no change. There's no we're trying to be inclusive. It's just him.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's my attitude on that.
Yeah, the argument that he made when they sort of retconned it in Star Trek Beyond was just like, Gene Roddenberry had me play the character as straight. He actually had talks about it, and his intention was to make the character straight because he couldn't talk about gay issues on Star Trek in the way that he wanted to. So I played the character as straight, and so I think that you should just keep the character straight and add more gay characters around that. Was his argument for Beyond. So, ergo, if we are going back to the beginning and like changing from the impetus of the character that he is openly homosexual, then I doubt George Takei would have had a problem with it.
Right.
So.
See, I agree personally, but of course I can't speak for the man. But that is the attitude I have here.
Well, but again, even if he didn't like it, I said it in a jerky way, but so there have been actors that have done things that they don't think their characters would have done before, and so. But I don't think
like most of the plot of Star Trek.
Yeah,
like almost every actor had a problem with that.
I mean,
script.
Shatner was a huge fan of the way they killed off Kirk too. He was absolutely ecstatic.
He loved it.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
In fact, he didn't even get paid for it. This is true facts. You can go and look it up on Wikipedia. He didn't get paid for that entire movie because that was how he wanted his character to end. It was all pro bono. He didn't do any of it.
Okay, Midnight's Edge. Let's move on.
I mean, it's fact as long as you don't look it up.
Sorry, throwing shade at other channels. My apologies.
What's up, Runner? You look pissed
I'm
off.
typing at Rax. That's all.
Okay.
Don't mind me.
Let's have it. Let's do this. Let's get into it. Hey, I need you to focus, sir. This is.
I'm sorry. Who are you again? What are you doing on my
writer's
show?
room. This is the writer's room, sir. This is Star Trek the way it was supposed to be.
This is the writer's room? Well, then why haven't you been writing?
I have been writing. I have been Gene Roddenberrying this all up.
That's true. You have been Roddenberrying.
I took all of your ideas. I said they're good. I was nothing but critical at some point, and it's on my channel, and I'm getting paid for it. I Roddenberried the hell out of this.
Yeah,
I've made
still getting royalties for freaking Alexander Courage's theme song, like dick.
Dude, I've made $23 off of you so far. Let's keep this going, buddy.
Dude, hell yeah! Let's keep making you money. All right, so. The general idea, let me give you the rough act structure. So I gave you the preface, all the Klingon politics, which is the main thrust of the background lore of what's going on in this movie. The main, so Act 1, what it's going to begin with is we have the credits and the stars, and then we pan down onto Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy. And I make that point very clearly. I'm going to say this out loud to you, so obviously you will get it, but it will be Spock with no cybernetics. There's no cybernetic implants visible. But Spock is there. He is fully in character. He is fully acting as if he is Spock. We will direct Nimoy to portray himself as Spock. And he is in the middle of trying to infiltrate a secret meeting on some camp, which is clearly under some kind of Klingon occupation. Visual indicators of Klingon oppression, yada, yada, yada. The race that he is speaking to are not Klingons. That's important. And this is part of what I mentioned earlier. The Gorkonites are trying to distance themselves from certain things, although we don't find that out until later. But anyways, Spock goes in and meets with the local resistance leaders and pretty much tells them to their faces, hey, I am Captain Spock. I work for Starfleet. Here's my number. Here's my information. And I am here to assist you in trying to generate some goodwill and get you guys going. And if you guys manage to successfully throw off the Klingon yoke, we will accept you into the Federation. We will actually give you Federation membership. You have the backing of Starfleet, and that is what I am here to do. And then I'm skipping through a lot of this, obviously, specifically, but they are, that's the thrust of the intro scene, is Spock, quote unquote, obviously reaching out to that. Anybody who notices the absence of cybernetics is going to be thinking, wait, who's that? Anybody who doesn't notice it is going to be thinking, wait, what's Spock doing here? Either way, the point is to make it very clear that this is a fully in-character presentation of Spock.
Well,
cut to Lore Reloaded.
I was just saying, and a third group was going to go to YouTube and talk about how it's not the original.
Oh, yeah.
How it's not.
The third group is going to go straight to YouTube and be like, okay, they have clearly forgotten that Spock is supposed to have cybernetics on his face in this scene. This is a major plot point in Star Trek 3 and 4. So I'm not certain why. There's no scarring tissue. And then do like the zoom in picture thing. There's no scarring tissue on his face. You can tell it's not actually there. Clearly, these people just don't actually respect I'm sorry.
The trailer breakdowns.
Yeah, trailer breakdown of it.
I have inside sources saying that they're going to be Gene Roddenberry is on the way out.
Yep, Roddenberry has decided to leave the thing. The lore duo trio. Which, but we don't. But you don't have lore in your name.
I'm.
Wait, it's your middle name. There we go.
Jesse Lore Gender, or it's what is it? Lore squared and the gender.
Oh, there you go.
that's really
squared and the gender.
That doesn't really flow very well, but we'll go with it.
Lore squared.
Gender and the Lorettes. There we go.
Gender and the Lorettes. Oh my God. All right. So, point being that I've lost my train of thought. I shouldn't go off on these tangents. Yes, this is the same dungeon. I'm leveling. What do you guys want from me? Okay, so that's the intro scene. That then cuts to Sulu, and he is getting his first major assignment on the Excelsior as formal captain of said Excelsior. His first assignment is he's going to be grouping together with the Katinga class ship. That might actually be the name of the ship. You know how Klingon names are.
Let's just call it the I'm gonna name after famous writers. Why am I blank? Butler.
The
USS Butler for Octavia Butler. We need more
representation of the USS the USS Butler. If the Klingon ship is called the USS Butler.
Oh, is it the Klingon? Never mind. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so I understand Call of Duty politics is really important, Jesse. I'm gonna need you to turn that. Hold on, let's go look at it.
Stop being on Twitter. Hang on, I'm going to your Twitter right now.
Let's find out together. Hold on, we're going to do this together. Hold on. Let's go to Jesse Gender, at Jesse Gender. Last response was...
the IKS Bitla. I like that.
2 minutes ago. 2 minutes ago.
There you go. She's still posting.
I'm sorry.
She's still on there. It's all right. Last 2 minutes ago. But to be fair, the one before that was 11 minutes ago. She said yup to tofu puffs. So that was good.
She didn't say yup to me.
She didn't say yup. She actually did when she wasn't listening yet.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's true.
What you were saying. She said, yeah, that's great. Wait a second. Who are we genociding again?
All right, I'm quitting out of this window. The window's gone.
No, because if I see it happening again, am I going to be messing with you? I am going to make you agree to some real screwed up stuff. I'm going to watch right here, and if I see you start tweeting again, I'm going to cut in. Lore Runner's
you're my whole screen now. You have my undivided attention. I thought I could dual focus like Lore does, but I cannot. So there we go.
Lore Runner's going to know, because then I'm going to say, and then the Klingons decided to start having relations with the Orions. And they came together, and I'm just gonna.
That'll be the sign.
Hey, look, we got the Orion and Dorian.
So anyway,
why not the Klingon and Orion?
We're talking about the Klingon ship, the USS Butler. Continue on.
The IKS Butla is what it's called now, and it contains Azit Bur, who, for those of you who don't remember, is Chancellor Gorkon's daughter. He is Chancellor right now, and again, the Gorkonites are in power, but not solidly in power. They're not in power enough to really enact the reforms they want. That's kind of the point of this movie and the lead up to 6, as we already discussed. Azit Bur is there as part of a joint operation. They are going after Klingon raiders. This is when they're going to get a little bit of exposition about what I already told you about the faction who want to die gloriously, the remnants of the Dagor faction. They are Sulu and the Butla are going to. That's its name now. No,
I like that. It is. It's the Butla. I don't know if you're looking at. If you're
got to say it right, Butla.
His Twitch. That's what they called it. The IKS.
Yeah, I got the name from Chad. It's their credit, not mine. So these two ships are going to go off and crush these suckers. That's their entire goal. Now, I mentioned earlier I'm missing some bits of the plot. So skip forward a whole bunch, and we cut to Scotty.
So
now,
hold on, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, man. We don't have to skip ahead on this though if we don't want to. So they're there. They are going after raiders. They're starting to do more group.
This is a group effort to bring down the military.
So why don't we tell us your next scene, so that we can figure out what we're connecting the dots to. I think
the next scene I'll give you a brief overview of the next scene. Scotty, defending an area, detects a ship that's attacking while cloaked, thinks it's Romulan. That's the rough idea of the next scene. Now that's going to be at like the end of Act 1. So you see there's a giant gap there, which is what I've been struggling with. I don't know what to fill that gap with.
So Scotty attacks a ship that he thinks is a Romulan.
Nope. Scotty is on board a thing, and he is attacked by Klingon marauders. He is saved by the Excelsior. And in the process, he's like, I swear I saw the torpedo come out of nowhere. What do you mean, Scotty? I didn't see a ship. There was no ship there. And this is building up to the bird that can travel cloaked.
To be fair, I was looking at space Twitter, though, so I wasn't paying
attention. I'm not looking at Twitter. I wasn't looking at Twitter. I'm actually rereading Lore Runner's notes on this so I can like have a make sure I have a clear idea.
Okay, so
so that's where I want to be next. That's the end of Act 1, is that big climactic battle, saving Scotty, and getting the hook for Act 2, which is trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But again, I don't know what to fill Act 1 with.
Here's the question: do we want to create a piece there that that will be relevant, or is it just going to be kind of filler to expand the movie itself? Because it could just
I'm fine with whatever.
It could just be a random operation, and we could even talk about how the Federation and the Klingons are doing a lot better, and we could even add a little bit of spice to it in that the Federation is noticing which house that they're with based on how well they work together. And that could lead into the politics. Like that could be a piece of it. Like when they're with the Katinga class ship, Sulu looks over to his XO or whatever. He's like, "So which do we know which family this is with?" And then based on it, you can either sigh of relief or be like shake his head and be like, "Yeah, it's that family," because they know what kind of experience they're about to have.
I like that. That's some good world building.
We could build in that. I'm sorry, you guys continue on for a second.
Yeah, my thought process on that too is I agree with other lore on that, but I also say we could flesh out two things. One, because it could get rather confusing, the Klingon like politics situation. So like as Lore said, make it kind of clearer. You could even have like a scene back on Kronos, kind of showing off like the different factions doing stuff, like maybe a show in the council chamber with people going up against Gorkin, just to like make the different factions kind of obvious to the audience who may not like the non-Trekkie fans who are just coming into this movie, so they kind of get an idea. Yeah. And then sprinkle the rest of it, the opening act, kind of with like little character moments for the main characters of this movie, because considering that 6 is going to be the big, like tons of stuff happening, the rest of this movie is going to be tons of stuff happening. This is going to be our last chance to like really kind of have a moment to just sit with the characters. So maybe just like check in with a lot of the characters, where they're at and like where they're at in life. Kind of like your Sulu scene where we kind of like learn about him taking the captain's chair, but like we do that with other characters too. Just sort of like we see Scotty like what is Scotty doing before he gets in that fight? Like Scotty's like off doing his own life thing, so we get a scene of like him living his best life.
I kind of like that idea. I mean, I do like that idea. Sorry, I kind of like it.
It's kind of okay.
You know, what I'm trying to say there is that I like the idea, because my original intent was for Act 1 to be mostly the action act and Act 2 be the character act, but I like flipping that and instead making Act 2 the intrigue act and make Act 1 the character act. And so we could have a bit where I kind of like the idea of them normalizing the combat. Like, okay, so we've got a Katinga class battle cruiser, which is handpicked from the Gorkonites' main faction. So that's probably like it's not the Kronos 1, but it's right below it, right? And then you've got the Excelsior. So they charge in to some random fight against a few birds. And we don't even need to show the battle necessarily. By which I mean, obviously, I don't want to deprive the viewer of action. What I mean by that is it should be made emphasize that this is not a big, intense battle. This is a curb stomp. And instead trying to do that to show other things, like show how the characters react to each other, how they react to Sulu, how Sulu acts under pressure, maybe show how normalized this thing has become, how well the Klingons and Federation act together. I like the idea of showing that teamwork, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and we have this battle, and then they're just mopping up over it. And, let's see where next. Well, we got another signal here. Set a course. And then as the Excelsior warps out, we cut to Scotty, and he's on the station /ship/planet. I decided that he's on, and that, just kind of setting up for where he will eventually be when he is attacked. And like you say, we can just jump around a little bit and show what everyone's going through right now. That would also be a good time to slide Chekhov in, who almost has no role in this movie. The only role I had for him is during Act 3, when they actually figure out what's going on to an extent and start reaching out to Starfleet intelligence. I wanted the person they reach out to be Chekhov, to formalize his drift into Starfleet intelligence in this film. That's all I wanted from that one. So we could also kind of shift that into Act 1 a little bit as well, have Chekhov, be a part of intel. And like just picture a scene where he's sitting there, he's got his pad, and he's going through it, and he just kind of gets a bit of a, just a little light chuckle, and his adjutant's like, "What is it, sir?" And he's like, "Oh, the Excelsior just hit Sector 3387. What's in that? 2 birds and a Katinga." And the adjutant just shakes her head and is like, "Well, that's the end of them." And Chekhov's like, "Yeah, exactly." And then just cut away, like really quick thing like that. Just little moments like that.
Shade to carry. And I like you could even do some stuff with Scotty too. If we're gonna like blow up that base that he's on, if it would be a bit of fridging, but you could like have a couple, like show his life on that on there's like he's made a couple friends, just so like when the thing gets blown up, he's a little bit more upset about it, and like understandably so. It's like, oh, that was all my the girlfriend that I got or whatever the hell, or like the other. Or
no. Let's lead into it. Let's make it. That's where he had brought all his scotch with him to the station.
yeah.
And he. And no, and I don't even mean that, like, that's partially joking, but it's also partially not, because he's established to really care about his scotch and TOS. So that means this was going to be home. Like he had moved his stuff,
But you could even have a scene where you could even makes that explicit, where like he's there and he's like having a moment with, like, let's say a friend of his on there, and that he shows that he has camaraderie with this person. He's like, I've been saving this scotch for when I finally settle down, and I think it's time to open it. He opens it and they pour a glass out with this friend and they drink it. And then it just makes it all the worse when we blow up and kill his friend and all of his scotch.
Yep, I like it. Let's kill those friends. I mean, they call me the Chainsaw Rider. They've called me that since high school, so I just own up to it at this point in my life.
I'm still on the Chekhov scene where, and this is bad writing, I'll admit, but instead of doing that, what happens is the Excelsior comes in, and Sulu knows there's 2 Klingons there. He knows something he shouldn't know, and the XO looks over. It's like, how do you know that? And then it just cuts to a scene of Chekhov, who just smiles at a pad, and then it goes back, and that's all. So that's he just smiles at a pad.
That's it. Nothing else.
That's his one. I mean, it's really bad storytelling, but I think that
mass murder. It's fun.
So I do like that. That's a good way to flesh out Act 1 substantially, especially since that would the normal is. This is going to sound strange, but from a zoomed out narrative construction perspective, I think the idea of normalizing the violence of them absolutely crushing the opposition would help to sell how serious the threat is when they go and destroy Scotty's home, and emphasize why this is actually an issue. Except even that's actually a subversion if you're paying attention, because the enemy they're facing is not a military threat. It is a subversive threat, and that's the actual problem here. Because I haven't even gotten back to the Spock yet.
Yeah.
So.
I like it.
Okay, so there we go. We've got Act 1 stuff. We fill it in with characters. Oh, I meant to mention this earlier. This is actually relevant. Tuvok will be there because he was on the Excelsior at this point in history. And I like the idea of him kind of getting a camaraderie with Scotty, because I don't know why, but I could just picture those two getting along together.
I'm stepping away for a second. Keep going.
Okay. Like, do you agree, disagree, Jesse and or Chap?
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Tuvok gets to be in all the things.
Well, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I could picture him being the kind of person who would just naturally click with someone like Scotty, because Scotty would just be like, I'm going to make stuff happen. And Tuvok would be doing that sort of nonplussed thing he does. But Tuvok likes being nonplussed. That's why he likes hanging out with humans. Like, that's established as part of his character, right?
Yeah.
And so he's enjoying being, just acting off of Scotty. But of course, he still has the respect for Scotty, because at the end of the day, Scotty gets results, which is what Tuvok cares about most of all.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
like
you
that
can
idea.
even like if we wanted to play a little bit, we don't have to do this. This might be a bit too wink wink nudge, but you could have a little like shades of like the hints of his future relationship with Janeway in there, like
Mhm.
elements of what comes up there. Like Janeway's love of science and Scotty's love of engineering, and Tuvok kind of like connecting those two. Just like maybe he'll bring it up over on Voyager or whatever.
If we really wanted to be cheeky, and if I'm being honest, I would do this if I had the power to do it. I would actually have Kate Mulgrew have a very brief cameo. And by cameo, I mean she wouldn't even have any lines, but she would be in the background.
Would she be how old? She wouldn't be alive at this point, would she?
Nope.
Oh, right.
Bingo. And
There,
nobody
yep.
would notice or care at the time. It would only
Got
be when
it.
Voyager's parts comes out, and the observant people, the fans, would be like,
Huh? Yes,
Wait.
that's right. I forgot we were doing that. Got it.
yeah.
Yep.
So I like the idea that Janeway is there. No lines, just in the background, almost always right next to Tuvok for some strange reason.
Just like she like we could have her just like be like just like chilling at a station or whatever. So it's like
just on the bridge, taking orders, doing a thing,
drinking coffee.
literally in the depth of field in the background. So
Yeah.
Anyways,
Down
drinking
for that.
coffee. She has to be drinking coffee.
Exactly.
Very important.
What I would actually love is like in Star Trek 6 when if we do the scene with the teacup thing, we see Sulu's teacup fall, but it cuts to like a shot of Tuvok, and we see Janeway actually is like holding her cup of coffee because she was prepared for it. That would actually be a nice little hint too. Anyways,
I actually agree. I like it. Okay, so Act 1 obviously ends with the attack I just mentioned. Let me go into slightly more detail. So wherever he is, I don't know if it's a station or a planet or a ship. It really doesn't matter. It's someplace that is Federation held, obviously, because duh, that's where Scotty is retiring. And they just get attacked out of nowhere, and it's a full alpha strike. They barely have time to deal with it. Scotty, of course, being Scotty, hasn't really been relaxing in the strictest sense of the word, because he doesn't do that. He's been working, right? That's how he's been unwinding. So the only reason that they survive long enough for him to exist at all, for him to survive this movie, is because in the character building scenes you just mentioned that we'll mention, he has been updating, upgrading, and generally making this station substantially more. I keep saying station. I like the idea of station.
yeah, station's
So
cool.
let's just stick with station right now. He has been upgrading and tinkering with the station, and it's got better shields, better hull, it's got better communication system. It has
What
a
if it's-
couple of phasers. What's up?
What if it's the Yorktown from Star Trek Beyond? This big like thing. It's like supposed to be the next chapter. So when it gets blown up, it's a big deal.
We can't use that name though, can we? Because the Yorktown was going to be.
Oh yeah, did we?
up.
Yeah, we did.
Runner. Doesn't have to be
I know what
Yorktown.
you're talking about. We could do it
could be
anyway. I mean, we could just have it be
Yorkshire.
the station. Oh, the Yorkshire. I mean, we could.
Well, we could have it be the Yorktown, and the other thing that we're coming up with later be like a reference to this as well.
Hello, Magtamed. Either way, Midway. Let's call it Midway. Wah wah. So either way, Klingon raiders start absolutely shredding this place. Sulu responds to the distress signal. The Excelsior and the Batlach gets there on time. They manage to push back the Klingon assault force, actually destroy the Klingon assault force, and rescue Scotty and not a lot of other people. They do rescue several people from the station, but haha, blow up Alex. But his friend that we established earlier, he's gone. And if we wanted, we could also kill a girlfriend. That feels a little bit too tacked on, if I'm being honest. But I do want the friend to be dead because I am apparently an evil writer. And I want this to have some kind of impact on Scotty. We don't have to do that, though. I'm talking myself out of it as I'm saying it. What do you guys think?
Kill him dead.
We don't have to.
We don't have to do.
I do like the idea of Scotty having some kind of push on this and motivation on this, but at the same time, we could have him survive because the emotional impact is still there. He still lost his home.
Well, this is the 80s, right? So we're writing as if we're 80s.
We are super doing that.
Let's say he's dead and bring him back at the end, because that was a trope
I will
the 80s
straight up stab you. I will grab Frostmourne in the other room.
Let's do that.
Come back in here, and you will be Frostmourned, sir.
Oh,
you will not find that a pleasant experience.
My understanding with Frostmourne is that it's not as powerful as it was believed. I could still become an archdiocese angel of the prophets or something like that. So
I mean,
It is hysterical hearing you talk about a lore you don't really know.
It's true. I do know it. I will be an archangel of loveliness.
That's definitely a true statement.
It is.
Not at all a horrible misunderstanding.
Sounds like someone wants to be put in the maw, is what it sounds like.
All priests are just the lore runners of Christianity.
That's not wrong. All right, but I'm just saying that.
My God.
If someone wants to go to the mall when they're dead, is all I'm saying.
You know what? That's a good point. Hang on. That's a good point in your chat. If we're going to be writing this as if the 80s, we need a lot more cocaine. So,
you just on cocaine.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. I've got an idea. Whales. We've got to make a whole movie about whales, guys.
What the F is a Sonic? Do you guys?
Damn it!
You remember that one? Have you ever seen that?
I died because I was doing that again. I just died because I was doing that joke.
As well, you should have.
As well, I should have. The cocaine killed me.
What game are you playing again?
Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. Okay. I've completely lost. All right. So I'm talking myself out of it. We don't need to kill the friend. We can kill plenty of people.
I'm saying we kill him, but he's not really dead. It's just.
And I'm ignoring you because you're memeing at this point.
I'm for not killing him if we are able to use him in some function, but otherwise I feel like it's better just motivation just to kill him.
We could see. I'm not sure. There's a lot of directions we could go with that, and that's why I'm very torn on this. One way or another, the strong impetus needs to be 2 big points, and these are the points I'm unmoving on. Scotty loses his home. I'm unmoving on that one, and Scotty notices the cloaked bird. I swear I saw the torpedoes coming from nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And both of those points are pretty important, I think.
Let's go into the presumption of the friend's alive, and if we use him, we use him, and if we end up not using him, why don't we just kill him if we wanted to?
Well, if we wanted to use him, what if, and I'm putting this out there, Scotty is like, I swear I saw him coming from nowhere. It looks like it may have been a cloaked vessel or something. No one believes him, and it's his friend that figures it out.
Ooh, that's a good reason to keep him alive. I like it.
Yeah.
And so now this is critical because this leads into a big part of Act 2, and I haven't said this out loud yet. But the main thrust of this is his friend deduces that this is a Romulan super weapon. Now, I'm going to go ahead and lay this out for you in chat. Forgive me for completely spoiling the entire point of the plot. But the idea here is that that's not a Romulan ship. That is a Klingon ship being operated by Klingons who are trying to keep the war going between the two sides. In fact, General Chang is probably personally on that vessel. However, the idea here is that because of the fact that they mistakenly think that this is a Romulan vessel, they start looking into the Romulan concepts, Romulan frequencies, and trying to check the intel on what the Romulan Empire has been doing lately. This is also where Chekhov comes back in. And in so doing, they discover the actual Romulan plot, which is actually happening here, because this is a Romulan plot.
I have an idea. What if, and we use Chekhov to do this, they know it's a Klingon ship, but they don't want to jeopardize the peace that's happening.
Yeah.
And so Chekhov changes it to be a Romulan ship. And it just happens to work out that the Romulans were coincidentally actually behind stuff here. And that way we can use him. And then, and then Chekhov comes back in, he's taking a look at these, and he's like talking to himself or whatever. He's like, this is going to jeopardize everything that we've been working on with the Gorkonites. And he pauses there a second, and then he just hits a button, and everything from Klingon goes to Romulan. Just
across the board, Romulan.
It just changes from red to green.
Yeah, exactly. We literally see it go from red to green on the what do you call this thing? The L-cars.
It's a good thing we've got all of our species color coded.
By the way,
kidding.
Yeah, he even says that. Thank God for color coding. I mean, my God. No. By the way, you call it Lacars. They love it when you do that. I don't still to this day, after a 2-year-old video, get comments. So call it Lacars.
Lorraine, I don't need you to mispronounce words.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Anyways, so no, that's great. I do like that idea substantially. It also, as you say, keeps Chekhov relevant, which I am wholly in favor of. So friend lives, friend looks into this, and friend sends it to Starfleet Intelligence. Chekhov is the one who changes it to be like, oh yeah, no, it's totally Romulan. That leads to Sulu and Azit-Bur and Scotty, and Scotty's friend, I guess, but mostly those ones, specifically looking into
Let's
the
give
Romulan
Scotty
thing.
his friend and name.
What should we call Scotty's friends?
Frenchie.
We could call him Frenchie.
Frenchie.
I like
my
it.
God.
That's his name. Or Safriend.
Oh my God.
We'll make him Vulcan. He could be Safriend.
No, let's make it an actual French name, like like a really stereotypical French name.
It's Picard. It's Picard's
Oh, there you
ancestor.
go. It's Picard's ancestor. There you go. Lieutenant Picard.
Uh,
Oh my gosh.
Picard. Frenchie Picard. That's his name. That's what I'm going to call him. I don't care if you guys change it. Frenchie Picard.
Frenchie! Scotty!
Frenchie
Scotty!
Frenchie French Picard.
That's how they talk too. That's when it's like Frenchie, Scotty, Frenchie, Scotty.
When that Scotch scene that we were talking about was like, no, I prefer a good bottle of Chateau Picard, like, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's what it's called. It's Chateau Picard, and just
he likes
this one
in his mouth and sucking down
I can't do French.
some Picard.
Oh,
and then they just kind of descend below the thing, and the jazz music plays. No, we're done. So that leads into Act 2. Now, Act 2 is supposed to be the tension, the suspense, the intrigue act, where they try to figure out what the hell is going on. This is when they come back to the Spock thing, and they try to. Now, once again, there's a big gap here. I'm a terrible writer apparently, because I couldn't come up with something for this in the time I had. Where I want it to end, and I know the exact way I want this scene to play out, is I want Sulu to personally confront one of the fake Spocks. And at this point, Sulu looks at him for like 3 seconds and says, "This isn't Mr. Spock." "Oh yes, Captain Sulu, you're not Mr. Spock." Security, and the whole time fake Spock is trying to talk his way out of it and just rolling charisma check after charisma check, and it's doing nothing. Because Sulu, again, the idea. I didn't mention this to you, Jesse, did I? I want to establish Sulu's command style as notably different than everyone else's, and the big direction I wanted to go in that is he is the Iron Wall. He does things very calmly and methodically in the background. But once he's fully established, we're here. This is it. There's no negotiation. There's no movement. This is where I'm at the end, and that's why he just completely stonewalls to the fake Spock. He's just no. You're
like, I'm not. Let's just do it.
I'm not entertaining you. Let's go.
I like it. It's good.
I also have that's going to come in another scene, which I've kind of written in my head. And I hope you guys like it when we get there, because you're going to hate it. I'm going to feel terrible. But anyways. There we go. Update. So Act 2 is going to end effectively with the reveal of the fake Spocks and the reveal of most of the stuff I've already told you. But in case I don't remember who I've told what right now, because I've talked about this twice today, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. The idea here is that the Romulan Star Empire has been backing the Centrists because they are most invested in the idea of that group maintaining their general level of power and ensuring the Klingon Star Empire remains this decrepit, aging beast that can't threaten them. They want to make sure the Klingons stay down. It's also worth noting, if you're paying attention, that this is going to be the third major time the Romulans have tried to bring down one of the other major forces and specifically tried to push against the Federation, right? Now, that's important because that's actually going to lead up to the Tomed incident, which is obviously way after this. But this is actually the third and final layout of brickwork for when we get to the Tomed incident. I just wanted to mention that because continuity. The Romulans have been pushing the Centrists, supplying them, supporting them. We find out that the fake Spocks, plural, are, of course, someone. We'll get to that in just a second. There's some thoughts my viewers had this morning about that. But the fake Spocks all are trying to incite resistance on the worlds the Gorkanites were specifically going to let loose, the ones that they were wanting to go ahead and give their independence as part of the aforementioned fixing the Empire problem. This would have benefited the Romulans because it would have benefited the Centrists because it would have benefited nobody, if that makes sense.
Excuse me.
I wasn't sure if that was a reaction.
No, that was a hiccup. Actually, I'm gonna grab some water real quick because I feel some hiccups coming on. So keep going. I'll just be back in 2 seconds. I'm just running to the fridge.
Okay. So this is they figure out the Romulan plot. They try to they need evidence, and that's going to be kind of the thrust of Act 3. They need to find this major evidence. But one of the other elements, I mentioned the fake Spocks. My viewers tossed some ideas here, and I like both ideas equally. Either the fake Spocks are Romulans, who are some genetically engineered, but that would be visible. That would be something that would be easier to detect. Or they are Vulcans who have been convinced to do this by Romulan agents who are probably posing as Vulcans in order to, because there's so much logic to this, because the Klingon Empire is an evil empire, because these are oppressive, corruptive regimes, because they do need to free these people. And so they have effectively convinced these Vulcans through logic to go ahead and go forward with this plan to pretend to be Spock because of the power of stories, which is one of the main themes I intended for this work. The idea, and I talked about this before, the director of such and such, and that's all we pay attention to is the director, right? So by convincing these Vulcans to be Spock, to look like Spock and act like Spock, that will lend more weight to it. And so people will be more likely to rise up, and thus their cause is more likely to succeed. Logical.
Sorry, I just had a small character beat that could help bring up your theme. In the scene earlier, we have Scotty give the scotch. He tells the story of the scotch and how important the story of the whole story. It's not just the scotch; it's the story behind the scotch that makes it important. And that's
I like that.
And
I like that.
This is where it ends. Like this, it's ending its story here with us. It's kind of a nice,
No, I like that a lot. That's great.
I want to say, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to say thank you so much, Avery Ramsdorf, for becoming a supporter, or what is that called now? A member. Thank you, Ryan Haw, for the... Ryan Haw thinks we should rewrite Warcraft as well, which would be great because as a Archon of the...
I don't know Warcraft lore at all.
Aurora Uplink.
Come on, you got...
Donovan Bradford, as well as Robert Williams. Sorry, what were you saying, Jesse?
You have the orcs and the humans.
I think they were goblins. I don't think they're allowed to do orcs because
I don't know.
Copyright.
I've only played Warcraft 2 and 3, and I haven't played them in over 2 decades.
It's kind of interesting because honestly, it's all about rejuvenation and everything. They defeat the undead in the first game, and you never see them again. Thanks to Robert Williams, Futurama had the Star Trek character Welshi. All is one of these fake Spocks, 50 feet tall. But yeah, so and I think you'd like it because again, it's not focused on humans or anything like that when it comes to Warcraft. They specifically have the elves and the I don't know, Amish angels or something.
The Amish are definitely in Warcraft.
I just like the fact that they kept Lordaeron, that nothing bad happened to it. Anyway, let's continue on. Can I ask you a real question before we continue on?
Yeah, good. Real question. If it's a real question, I'll actually answer it.
When they routed the enemy and they took Lordaeron back during the last one before Shadowlands or whatever, I realized what Sylvanas did, but doesn't the Alliance now own Lordaeron? Why would they try to rejuvenate that, you think, or did they just leave after that? Were they like...
So the answer is yes, they do actually technically own legal ownership over the dead and blasted land. However, the devastation, so there's two major problems there. One, restoring, let me get Rax in the picture here. Restoring that kind of damage is actually pretty hard, even in Warcraft. It is possible, but you're looking at years of effort, right?
Right.
The second problem is that all of BFA they spent in the middle of a war against Sylvanas, so they haven't really been allocating resources towards those kind of restorative efforts.
So let me ask you this: how long is this after the Warcraft 3? How many years?
Hang on.
Well, Jaina's still there. You have survivors from Lordaeron, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be interesting because I think they would want to push to have Lordaeron restored.
14 or 15 years.
Okay, so you still have a lot of people. You had kids who are not even, arguably, may not even be adults yet fully that would want Lordaeron reserved. Anyway, it's just an interesting thing.
I actually do agree with you, and I hope they do something with it in the future. I mean, if nothing else, we could have a Felwood situation with it.
Yeah. Anyway, continue on. I apologize about that.
The idea here is that Act 2, so they get to the end of Act 2, and it's like, wait a second, you're fake Spocks, and I see what's going on, and they've kind of got the thrust of the Bay of Pigs situation, as was pointed out in my chat earlier. Cashel, join the dancing. Come on. That one's AFK. Again, I have a big gap there, and that's where I keep stumbling here. I don't know what to fill Act 2 with. Act 3, I'm actually pretty codified on, but I'm not sure what to do with Act 2. Any thoughts?
So tell people where we are in Act 3.
All right, that's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
We did that last time. So they discover the fake Spock, and it's like, okay, got it. We now know the general thrust of the situation. And so there's going to be a few threads going concurrently. One is the Romulan super weapon. The other is the fact that this is going to actually be very, throughout all the movies since one, if you remember, and you pointed this out specifically, More Reloaded, since the first movie, we've been getting the Klingons and the Federation more closely together. This is supposed to be like I want to see the camaraderie on display. Why would you do that dance, Cashel? Why? You are not a Manderville man. I want to show how well they just kind of click together, to show what would eventually become, again, kind of leading into both Star Trek 6 and most importantly TNG. Mm-hmm. So that's plot thread number 2. Plot thread number 3 is going to be, so they want to, they get the real Spock. This is when the campfire scene happens. They're like, okay, Sulu has an idea, basically, and he doesn't say what it is out loud, but I need to go see Mr. Spock. And then we cut to the campfire scene, and that's when the marshmallows and all that fun stuff happens. And then for the first time in this film, we will see Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and Spock will, of course, have his cybernetics. And, we have the campfire scene, and we could do a polishing pass to make it better. I enjoy the campfire scene well enough, but I think we could absolutely do a polishing pass on that one.
Oh, yes.
I like the joke. I liked him better when he was dead. So
I liked him better when he was dead. Yeah. I think we should keep that.
Anyway, I'm just saying we have Sulu. If we want to keep it with a joke motif, Sulu's like, I need to see Mr. Spock, and then all of a sudden the 50 Spocks look up. He's like, no, the real Mr. Spock.
Well, the real Mr. Spock, please, Dad.
Spock. And they've got several Spocks.
Just look at
And then Spock becomes the Lich King. That's actually the next thing that happened. Very next story beat. Then
that was a part of the problem with the original one, right? Because they wanted to make it a joke thing, but it had to be serious.
They wanted to be a joke, but a serious search for meaning. And they wanted to have the third thing was they wanted God to be in it. They wanted to have search for deeper meaning, humor, and God in one movie. Not the greatest formula.
Yeah,
it's like a strawberry cinnamon cilantro muffin is what that is right there. No, thank you. Anyways, in Act 3, Act 3 is going to be more of a conclusionary thing. And again, I have a big gap in the middle of Act 3, but where I want Act 3 to kind of go is they get the real Spock. The real Spock looks into the situation, and thanks to the real Spock, Scotty's friend, Chekhov's information, and as it were, all of them, I feel like I'm saying her name wrong. All of them.
As it were. Is it right? Yeah, I think you're saying it right.
All of them pretty much figure out where Romulan bad guy is. Now, I admit this is a huge stumbling point in my script here, and I'll freely admit that, because there's got to be a face for the Romulan forces. I have no idea who it is, and they probably wouldn't even show up until the third act. But whoever it is, there's Romulan guy or gal, it doesn't matter. And the Romulan person there is the one that Sulu will actually confront. We do need that confrontation scene. Because what I want to happen, and again, this is establishing Sulu. By this point, no, it can't be Tomalak. They don't live that long. Or do they?
Who would that be?
Tomalak is who Von Falkenstein recommended.
But who's Tomalak again?
He's from TNG.
Oh, yeah.
Played by Andreas Katsulas.
Yeah, that's right.
They're related to Vulcans, and Vulcans live hundreds of years.
See, I actually don't know how long Romulans live.
They would have to live. They could at least live several centuries.
Vulcans.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Well, we presume they live several centuries.
Be curious now.
They would have the same lifespan. They're Vulcans. They're just on a different planet. That's what I'm not even trying to be too sarcastic.
No, I get you. It's just it's interesting because I don't think it's ever come up.
It's like, hey, those. I wonder those Alpha Centauri humans. I don't know how long they live.
Well, I don't either.
I don't get it. Let's look that up. They're okay. If it's different, it's a continuity.
I'm with you.
If it's different,
I'm with you.
If it's different, it's a continuity issue.
Well, it depends on how it's a continuity area only in depending on how far back the Romulans split off from the Vulcans.
They're still. We would still. Okay, so can you tell me? What was it? What was the original? Where did we come from? Besides God in the Bible.
Well, in Star Trek, we come from the female changeling dressed up as a whatever.
Oh no, yeah, the preservers.
I love mythical stories, regardless if it's in book form or episode. What the hell is it called? Oh my God! What were humans? What were we before? What were we called? What were humans called before? We came from Africa. We had a name. There was a name for us. Our genus. What was it called?
Oh, I know it. I just enjoy you.
What was it called? No, you need to tell me. Can you guys let me know in comments? Because we're not going forward until I know what we were
There
called.
it is. That's hysterical.
Hold on.
I'm
no,
sorry.
No, I need to know what humans were called.
Cro-Magnus.
No, it was not. That was the ones we killed. We killed off the Cro-Magnus.
I don't know, dude.
Stupid.
I don't even care.
No, but so those people, did they live longer than we live now?
Okay, so you ready for what amuses me here? I just looked this up.
You're about
But
to irritate.
even off the top of my head, from my own rather extensive Star Trek knowledge, they never bring up Romulan lifespan ever. I looked it up. They never bring up Romulan lifespan. There's no information on it. Now, to prove that point, I also looked up Vulcans, just to be fair. And yes, there are demonstrable aspects of them showing that Vulcans live that long. For some reason, I'm not disagreeing with you, Reloaded. I think this is hysterical. For some reason, Trek has never acknowledged Romulan age.
I mean, but they're Vulcans. It's like Homo
But they've
sapiens,
never.
whatever.
Why have they never said that on
that's
camera?
true.
Why has that never been a thing?
Because I don't think they never needed to establish it because they never had like a cross-generational thing.
I guess that's
the only reason
true.
the only reason they established Vulcan age is because they wanted to have like Sarek show up.
Well,
Actually, Sarek is specifically the episode when they established. I know that. That's
Yeah,
when they
so
established
it's
that Vulcans live long.
Well, and
That's
they're
literally
the
like, okay, so if
protagonists.
they'd ever brought a Romulan character, they never had, like, the only Romulan character they really could have brought back in TNG would have been like the Romulan commander from
That would have been awkward.
or
The Romulan commander meets Sarek.
yeah, that would have been interesting.
I mean, they're protagonists too.
Or the other option would have been the female commander from.
Oh, that would have been amazing. They actually wanted to bring her back for, I forget what, but it was one of the TNG things, but she wasn't available, which really sucks.
That
They were
would
going
have
to bring her back,
established
though.
it. So that would have established it. So
Oh, that would have, yeah, that you're right. That would have done it. So there was intent. So even though Overloaded believes in death of the author, here we can see how intent can matter for theory crafting, because now we have intent stating that Romulans live as long as Vulcans, even though for some reason it's never come up in the show.
I mean, that would be death of their Vulcans. It's like saying, okay, hey, okay, it's fine.
Homo sapiens.
It's
by the
fine.
way.
It's whatever.
Homo sapiens, by the
I
way.
All right. So, anyways, Tomalak can totally
I mean,
be alive.
just so
I
you
don't
guys
want it
know,
to be Tomalak. I just want to start with that.
Homo sapiens didn't have the ability to talk. They didn't have brains or eyes. And their
Who would I
lifespan
have
was
it be, though?
10 years.
And haven't evolved since.
have evolved because a book tells us that. All right. Anyway, but I mean, do you disagree or not? I mean, they're Vulcan, even if it's
No, it makes perfect sense. No, I am actually
right,
with you.
I'm
I am
more
amused because of the in-character stuff that I just.
I'm also amused by your incredulity at that whole conversation.
I mean, I wasn't mad or incredulous with you guys. It's just like the thought of it's like, well, they have different. That's not how evolution
Listen,
works.
they've been living on another planet for
Look, we're all
centuries.
gonna evolve into lizards one
Listen,
day.
yeah. It's
so-
we're all the salamanders. Okay, guys.
I mean, we've
it
been
could have been
alive for
Seela's dead.
thousands of years, and humans haven't changed that. Anyway, it's fine. It's whatever.
All right, so hang on. Let's
I don't
actually
even
think
care
about
about
this.
anymore.
This
I don't
is
want
a real topic. Who do we want the Romulan face to be?
Tomalak.
Because I like the idea of it being someone connected somewhere else, somewhere in Trek. We have a lot of options.
What
the
about
only
Valdor?
two that I really love is either Tomalak or I forget if he dies, but we could change it obviously. But the dude from Star Trek Enterprise who was trying to manipulate events that leading into the Romulan War.
I think he was implied to die because it's like the Senate's going to hear about this, but they never
Yeah.
actually go. I kind of like that idea. So that's two good ideas there. A third idea was the Romulan Commander from the woman who's never named. Actually, she is named in the book, but I forget it right now. Please
Yeah, I
forgive me.
forget it too.
Would Valdor be too old?
There's
Or is that what
also
you're talking about?
was it Valdor? Hang on.
Valdor
Is he-
was in Enterprise. He was the
Yeah,
commander.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's
Yeah,
the second
that's
guy
who we're talking about,
Oh, okay, yeah, because he was named after. They named the ship after him in Nemesis
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't-
it's a
I didn't
Valdor
catch that at
class.
all.
Yeah, it's a Valdor
Oh, wow.
class.
That's a nice little connection there.
I'm sorry. Our adorable rating has just gone up by 15. I'm
That's
not sure
true.
why.
Yeah. Just because of me, not your kid.
Yeah, no, it's all Jesse. So.
Was there a tweet about that you were reading? Or
Yeah, let
what-
me check. Hang on,
What?
let's check.
Oh, I've been
Let's pull up
watching, baby.
Twitter.
I've been ready.
Right? No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding
I've
about
been ready.
that. But we could also do. What was the other idea I had? Oh God, what's his name? It's the episode Defector in TNG. It's actually one of my favorite Romulan characters.
Yeah. Ron Moore's first episode.
Mhm. And it's actually was it Ron Moore?
Yeah,
And-
it was the one that was the one that he pitched. Defector.
Oh God, I can't think.
That was
of
Ron
that.
Moore.
It might have been. It was either his first or his second. He had those script that he like brought into the tour. I think.
It was Jarok. You're right. It was Jarok, Justin. So yeah, it could be either Admiral. It could be Lieutenant Jarok. It could also just be someone with his name. I don't know.
Wouldn't it have to be like
There's a couple of
Sub-Commander
options
or
there.
something like that?
Oh, it was the second episode. The first one they pitched was the bonding. That was the one.
That's why my brain was telling me that wasn't quite right.
Yeah, because that was the one that he brought in on the tour, and he
Yeah.
kind of handed it to somebody and got it made, and then he pitched the Defector, which did well, and then that's what got him the job.
I suppose we have several options here, and I guess it doesn't really matter because one way or another, the Romulan's not going to die here. That's not the intent. I guess the real question is, do we want to connect backwards or forwards? Because if we connect backwards, I think Valdor is the best choice there. If we want to connect forwards, we should probably make it someone who's going to show up later.
I mean, knowing me, my impetus is to go back to Enterprise because I just feel like there's more. I like Enterprise more, and
pushing the agenda. No,
exactly. That's my transgender agenda. Is
Enterprise is actually a good show, damn it.
Yeah. That's the real agenda. So yeah, but also I feel like there's a lot of connections between TNG and TOS era. So I feel like seeding more to Enterprise.
That's fair. I'm with it. So let's make it Valdor. I'm totally with it. The implication for anybody who has/is paying attention will be that this is his attempt to restore his position. It's probably taken him the last,
100 years,
40 years. I forget the time period. It's probably taken him this whole period of time just to recover enough of position to push this, just to help emphasize how much he was shamed and ruined after the incidents of Enterprise. And if we're going to do that, I would want Valdor to be personally involved in the Tomed incident.
It would actually be over 100 years. I'm just thinking at the time.
Over 100? Wow.
That episode takes place in 2154, and the Star Trek movies, Star Trek 5 takes around 2287, I think it says here. Oh.
The thing we'd have to do is we do have to give him a win at some point for them to name a ship after him. So either it can't be...
It could be the Tomed incident.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if we're going to use him, we have to give him a win.
I agree completely, and I think the Tomed incident could be that win. I think that fits pretty neatly. Because remember, that's the incident where the Federation basically crumbles. It's like, yeah, okay, we'll sign any document you want, just please leave us alone.
Right.
So,
well, they got a lot out of that too, though. That was a pretty multi-sided agreement. I don't know. Do you disagree? I don't think the Federation should have signed it, but I think they got some.
Fair. Yeah.
I think they got some decent stuff from the Romulans too.
Yeah, I will give you that. It's just I also agree that they shouldn't have signed it. That's why I hesitated. Moving on. So we'll make it Valdor. I do like that idea. So getting back to Act 3, one of these days I'm going to finish talking about this. Getting back to Act 3, the idea here is that Sulu needs to get. I have a checklist here. He needs to get demonstrable, scientific, provable proof of Romulan intervention in the Centrists. This is when we name drop the Duras faction, but I know every single time we bring up the Dagors, someone has asked about the Duras.
Let's do the Duras.
No, hang on. This is on purpose. I've actually been planning this out because the Duras are supposed to be a minor house of relative irrelevance at this point, and they were part of the Centrists. If you're paying attention, they are worse than the Dagors because they don't care about how much they're ruining the Empire. They just care about themselves. And that sounds a lot more like Duras to me, personally.
Ryan brought up something interesting too. I don't know if you guys would be interested, but he says, how about showing this being the starting point of the Romulans? I don't know that I agree with his analysis here, but maybe from honorable adversaries to space Nazis. I don't know that I consider them ever as honorable adversaries. I don't know that they've ever.
The Romulan Commander. The one commander is
Mark Leonard, dude.
Yeah. But even that commander, he was destroying defenseless bases. So I mean, I'm not
he had respect for Kirk, and he was kind of an honorable dude. But his orders and the structure of Romulus were clearly douche nozzles. I mean, they're meant to more be like the, I guess Cardassians are more the police state. Well, Cardassians are more fascist, and Romulans are much more kind of like a police, like a police state sort of thing, which is they're similar. But
I don't even find him honorable. He was destroying defenseless bases that couldn't stop him.
No, I don't disagree. I think he was an honorable person. He just didn't get honorable orders, but it's still.
Having recently watched that episode, I'm with Jesse on that. He was clearly disgruntled at his orders, and he clearly hated doing what he was doing, and he did it because it was his job. But the whole time, it's Mark Leonard sells it, if I'm being blunt. He sells that idea of someone who is just weary and tired, but fine. I will do my orders because that's what I'm supposed to do. Because following orders is a good thing when it comes to Nazis, right?
So that's what I'm about to ask you. So if I can find you an example of a Nazi soldier that didn't want to follow his orders and he was weary and he was just like, fine, I'll go ahead and follow it. If I can, I'm not saying he's like great. I'm just saying like
he's fine. I mean,
that's a separate. He's a good actor, and from a soldier standpoint, he's a good soldier. I don't know that he's honorable, but I mean that's a separate conversation. We don't have to have that conversation right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it's there's nuance. The character is nuanced if the Romulans are not necessarily at that time.
Sure. So, but I mean, I don't know if we're the only thing to that point is do we have a shift of them working in the background being because I mean I guess they were only like that in Enterprise because in the original series the series they were pretty open. So I guess that answers that. I guess that it's not a thing to do.
That is something we will have to decide going forward because you're right. In TOS, they were Romans. That's not even me being facetious. The writer has flat out said Romans. I mean,
they literally call themselves praetors and
but my point is big, obvious military power. It was it's TNG actually, but it was TNG, Enterprise, DSN, all that stuff, which added they're the subterfuge people, and so that's a little bit of retconniness because Enterprise beforehand, and I love their plot in season 4 of Enterprise. I really do. It's one of my favorite parts of Enterprise.
It's one of my favorite Star Trek stories.
I actually think it fits, honestly, because if you think about it, they started out as trying to start wars between people. It actually ended in these people becoming a federation. So okay, they messed that up. They're going to stop that. They come into the limelight. They're like, all right, so we're going to be Romans. We're going to enforce us. Ultimately, it ends that they realize they can't really win wars if they actually fight them. And so they sign this agreement because the Federation is stupid enough to sign a one-sided agreement. I agree it was a one-sided agreement. And then they're like, okay, whatever. And then they go back behind their lines, they rebuild, and they come back out to do that again. So, I mean, I don't know that's retcon. I think you could.
I can see the path you're talking about, yeah.
So,
I mean, it is a retcon. It's just I think it could make sense.
Right. But anyway, so that's the piece. Are they moving back towards the Tilmed experience? I guess is.
So okay, here's what I'm thinking. This is you kind of already said it, so forgive me for repeating your dialogue right back to you. But I think that this should be. I mean, if I was to get really politicky here, which is kind of my bag, I would say that there are certain Romulan forces who have been specifically positioning military members, including Mr. Valdor, into a position to kind of not quite win, but also not quite lose, because those specific people want the Romulan Star Empire to go back to being behind their lines and back to being more subterfuge, because they feel that the full military line isn't working because of what they've seen happening to the Klingon Empire and their problems. Ergo, this is a deliberate manipulation by someone who is kind of pushing Valdor into failing. And by coincidence, Valdor will succeed at Tilmed. But then, well, okay, fine. We'll just go back behind our lines now.
What if this was Valdor playing the long game? What if he's not being manipulated? We include a scene where he knows this is going to fail, and we hint at stuff in the future. That he specifically did this. And like at the end, you have a scene with him and another Romulan or whatever, and they're like, hey, don't you think it's crazy that we have lower lifespans than Vulcans, even though we came from them? And then they're like, yeah. And then after that, he's like, it's a shame that you failed. And then he's like, or did I? And he looks at the camera, and it ends right there.
Okay, so that's terrible writing, but I do actually get where you're going with it, and I even like it. No, I'm serious. Hear me out. No, that fits perfectly. The idea that Valdor, the way I'm picturing it now, is that this is admittedly borrowing a little bit from Star Trek Beyond, but I'm picturing the old soldier who at this point just kind of disagrees with how his people do things. Not the soldier, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. The old spy master who disagrees with the way his people are doing things. And he's seen how the Romulans have become more militaristic and more open and more overt. So he is deliberately planning these open military actions to succeed. Or sorry, I'm saying that wrong. He's planning the military actions to fail and the subterfuge actions to succeed. That doesn't line up though. Because the idea here is that he wants to show that the open militariness is wrong. And he wants to do that by sabotaging his own people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The catch is, if he's going to have his big win, like we could just not have his big win. We could just go that route with it. But if he's going to have his big win, then that means the Tilmed incident needs to be a big win for the Romulans. And frankly, it kind of is anyways. And that doesn't line up with this. So we could just divorce Valdor from that.
I mean, how does it not? Here's my thing. In this, it's a loss, and it makes it seem like it's a major loss. But he did it on purpose, and then we just leave it at that. Like he wanted to lose, but we don't know.
But why would he want to lose the subterfuge action instead of the overt military action?
Well, because I think that he thinks he realizes after what happened that the Romulans aren't ready to take on any of the various races. If they do it in the subterfuge, they just push them together. If they do it in the limelight, they get the living hell beat out of them. So he hatches a plan that just won't win on any level.
I don't think that lines up in my head.
Yeah, but because the goal is he wants the overt action to fail. He would need a reason to have the overt action to fail, which means that people would know the Romulans would fail, but also he would win in subterfuge. So what would the purpose be for having the galaxy know that the Romulans failed, but they actually won without knowing it? Is like kind of the goal, right? It's kind of convoluted.
I see how we could make that work, but that would involve some really big restructuring of 5 in particular, and I'm not sure I want to do that at this phase.
Yeah, that's a whole deal.
Like I do see. Yes. Sure. I'll just die then.
You beat up that wall. You take that wall off.
I'll just die.
You got beat up.
God, how would I make that work? Okay, so.
Well, we don't have to go with the idea. It was just a thought.
No. I like the general idea. It just needs to be flipped from where it is. So give me a sec to think about that. Oh, okay, there we go.
What the hell is going on with that wall? Jesus.
Yeah, it's a fun wall. I just I was too late on reacting, and that's why I said I guess I'll just die then, because by that point it was too late to move. Here we go. So it's bull crap. Bull crap. What I'm thinking is that this operation isn't a failure at all. So let's assume that Valdor is Sonic Doctor, who just gave me a sub. Thank you very much, Sonic Doctor. As always, I do appreciate. If you happen to know where you want to put that, let me know. Otherwise, many stabbings will be in your future. Now, here's the idea. Valdor is playing for keeps, right? Like you just said that. He's playing the long game. He's playing in it for the long haul. He wants his people to really be successful and actually that's terrible.
But he thinks the only way that they can do it is if they completely retreat. But he's a Romulan. He doesn't want them to he wants to retreat on their terms. He thinks that they just need more time to rebuild. Because remember, when they left, they were having their own cloaks stolen. They were matching ships, but they couldn't be beat. And then they come out and they have the Dideridex, right? They're pretty powerful. And he knows that they just need time and they need to be left alone. And so, again, how he gets there is the way it is. And then he's known as this great tactician that saved the Romulan Empire, which is why he has a ship named after him.
So, hear me out. Here's the idea. He doesn't lose Star Trek V, even though the operation fails. What I'm thinking is his overall thrust here is to show that the Romulans need to take it up the next level, okay? Instead of being obvious about their manipulation, which is admittedly what this kind of is, he thinks they need to go another step deeper. And so his whole point this entire time internally, we don't even have to show this in the movie, of course, but his whole point internally is walking up to a bunch of Klingons and saying, hey, we'll back you, is not good enough for the Romulans anymore. They need to go further than that. They need to really be able to pull back, really be able to withstand. Otherwise, we're just going to get caught, and that's going to be bad for all of our operations. And then so he kind of deliberately allows this situation to get caught, or maybe it just gets caught. No, I take that back. He doesn't deliberately allow it to get caught. It's just that's what happens because Sulu's awesome. And as a direct consequence, he now wins. If this operation had succeeded, he would have won as well because he's still pushing for the subterfuge angle, which this still is. However, now that he has successfully shown that this fails, he now has the political capita to spend back home to say, we need to really start pushing the Tal Shiar, who at this stage in history are a relatively small scale and not very well known Romulan organization.
Well, sir, to be fair, the Tal Shiar is actually a front for, what the hell were their names? This massive entity, sir.
That's nice. So, anyway, since I haven't seen Picard, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm just going to move on.
The Zhat Vash.
I like excuse me. Section 31 is Zhat Vash too. proven lore theory on my channel.
Jesus
Check it out,
Christ,
dude.
that's so stupid. Sorry.
Hold on. I like the idea though. I do like the idea of him constructing a plot that regardless of what happens, he wins. I think that's very Romulan. That's what a smart Romulan would do.
And I like the idea of kind of building Valdor up a little bit for this, kind of making him our main Romulan villain for a while. And that means when we get to Enterprise, we can work with him a bit more there. And that also kind of lends weight to that wonderful plot he had back there, because it was a brilliant plot. So, I think I'm going to push this idea. So it's Valdor. If he wins, he wins. If he loses, he wins. And now that we find, I'm still trying to fill Act 2. Now,
I thought we were in Act 3 now.
You guys asked me to describe the rough outline of Act 3 so we could fill Act 2.
Oh, God. I thought we were past that.
And then we got way off onto the weeds about the Romulans.
9 babies.
Yeah, we might need to do a part 2 on this.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying that the second act needs to just identify how long Romulans live.
That is the only thing that matters in Star Trek.
As long as we add that to canon, not God, just
just the age of the Ramos. All right. So let's go ahead and push through Act 3 then, because the idea is that there's going to be this big scene. I want to get this out before I forget. I thought of it
we'll
today.
get it out and then we'll go back to Act 2 just real brief.
I might need to head out in the near future too, because I got to record some videos today.
What? Wait, you work? What the heck?
I know.
What a weird way of saying I'm going to go back on Twitter and start talking about Call of Duty.
I like the idea. I'm getting this out. I like the idea. So Sulu is confronting Valdor, and we have identified the Romulan in question now. And as he confronts Valdor, and Valdor schmarks, like, oh, there's no actual proof, and obviously under the right circumstances, you could prove anything, and you get the idea. He's trying to talk his way around the situation. This is when Sulu's command style comes up for, I guess, at this point, the second time in the film, where he says, you don't understand. I already have the data and proof right now that shows your collaboration with houses XYZ, also include Duras in here, I mentioned that earlier. This collaboration is something that is unacceptable to both the Klingon Empire and the Federation. This is not yet a declaration of war. If you do not wish things to become worse from this point going forward, I suggest you leave this sector immediately.
I like it.
And just laying down the law like that. The whole point is that Sulu's approach is, I've already won.
Yeah, it's just like, all right.
So you can make this worse. Thank you, Marcus Calligas. You can make this worse, or you can take your losses and go home. And that's the exact attitude I want George Takei to, and he could do that. I've seen that man act in that exact same manner before. He's brilliant at it. So I want that scene to happen. And there's one other little tidbit to that scene where, as you can see, and he brings forward one of the fake Spocks. And Valdor's like, Captain Spock, it is good to see you in such good spirits. I do hope that you and your associates wouldn't do anything against the Klingon Empire. And as he's saying this speech, the real Spock walks in. And Valdor just kind of slowly stops talking. Like, oh.
I'm fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, apologies. I shouldn't swear.
It's okay, but that's a good time for it. If you're going to say it, you say it.
Get it. The one. It's still PG-13.
You can still keep the PG-13.
Yeah, we're still PG-13. So he realizes that he has been outplayed, which means now it's time for him to win by losing rather than win by winning. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of crumbles before Sulu's assault, and Sulu walks away with a win. And all of this basically leads up directly into Star Trek tips. Okay, go forward. Not third. Your name isn't third. Reloaded. You're going to talk about Act 2.
Oh, I was just saying we could probably make it about the mission, and then just show the frustrations with it. We don't have to expand it out more than that. Is all I was saying. Is that we we use Act 2 as a way to hint to Act 3, but more it's just about the Klingons and the Federation more than anything else, because this is again just setting that up, as well as some stuff coming up in TNG ultimately. So
yeah, there's a lot of setup and build up in Star Trek V. It's funny, this is just kind of my overall writing style right here. If I have a blank sheet of paper, I'm going to do establishment.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick, I was gonna just a couple things to narrow down. I don't think Kirk needs to be anything more than a cameo. Any objections?
Nope, fine with that.
And I'm not even saying that as a dig. Ignoring Shatner, ignoring egos, ignoring actors. From a pure writing perspective, I don't think Kirk has any real relevance to this story other than being there when they go to get Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
I agree with that.
same thing with McCoy. I hate to say that, but same thing with McCoy. Scotty is relevant. Chekhov is relevant since he's the one who says, "Oh no, it's totally wrong." And it serves as the Starfleet intelligence face on this. Obviously, this is Sulu's story. We have Rand, we have Tuvok, Janeway's in the background. Is that it? Are we done?
That sounds.
Seems
Any thoughts from anybody else? Because Jesse needs to go soon, and I'm about to hit by a giant beam of light. So, like you do.
As one does.
It's kind of normal at this point, honestly. It's a thing you just kind of get used to.
I like it like I like the sun.
I don't understand that quote. You said that earlier too.
It's from Knight's Tale. It's a really dumb.
I haven't seen that movie.
Yeah,
I know the movie, but I haven't
it's a really
seen it.
dumb. Or no, is it Knight's Tale? No, it's not Knight's Tale. It's from a really dumb scene. It's not Knight's Tale. It's from a really dumb scene, where someone says something really stupid, and this person just supporting them is like, "I love it. I love it like I love the sun." It's just a really
Okay. Very strange.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to have Praxis in 5. Praxis is better served in 6, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was assuming.
We actually don't even need to have Praxis in 6 if we're being honest, based on the way we've lined things up. But we can. It doesn't need to be removed. It just also doesn't need to be there.
I think it's good. No, I think we're there.
Okay, we did it. We rewrote Star Trek 5. There's still holes. I'm still I feel embarrassed by how many holes are there in the script here.
I don't think so. I think it's a good setting. I mean, this is different from everything else that we've been doing anyway, right? So this is still this is kind of
it's going to inherently be longer than what we've been doing.
Well, and it's new for us because we've been just rewriting or building on what was given. This was a complete rewrite with nothing. So I think for what it was, we definitely are there.
Well, then up top.
Yeah.
Adorable. I actually agree with you, Blow Up Alex. It's just, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and chop off myself. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I do hope you enjoy these things, and if you do, feel free to jump in the comments, give any other additional thoughts, comments, etc. And I'm going to chop off tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be starting Halo 3 for anybody who's curious about joining us for that one.
Finish the fight, man. Finish the fight.
Yeah. Open that mouth, suck it in. Bye,
and I